Well, top of the morning to you and all that shite. I hope you had a better sleep than I did. So let's get on with it. As we progress through this series and study more advanced lucid dreaming techniques, you'll notice that many of them incorporate some form of sleep interruption. This is because there are periods in the middle of the night where lucid dreams are more likely to occur. If you've watched other videos or researched lucid dreaming yourself, you may be familiar with the wake back to bed method, usually abbreviated as WBTB. This typically refers to a specific set of instructions, which I'll go through later, but wake back to bed is really just one of the many variations utilizing what I consider the core concept of sleep interruption. The reason sleep interruption is so beneficial and often necessary for certain lucid dreaming practices is because, as I've mentioned before, you are very unlikely to enter a period of rapid eye movement sleep long or stable enough to facilitate a lucid dream at the beginning of the night. This is a hypnogram. It's a graph that represents the sleep stages of an individual on a particular night. Generally, REM begins 90 minutes or so after falling asleep, and this first period might only last a few minutes. You cycle through the other non-REM stages, and about every 90 minutes, you enter REM again, for longer and longer each time. In theory, you could attempt to induce a lucid dream at any or all of these REM periods. But here's the problem. Everybody's hypnogram will look different. Even your own will vary from night to night, and that's provided you even have a reliable way of measuring your sleep. Most commonly available wearables might give you a general idea of the quality of your sleep and how much time you spent in each stage, but the hypnograms they produce really can't be trusted unless they use EEG technology to record brain activity. The only thing we can say with some degree of certainty across the board is that as we keep sleeping, the longer each REM stage becomes. So it stands to reason that the probability of success increases as we shift over to the right side of the old hypnogram like. There are some techniques that can be practiced while falling asleep to increase the likelihood of dream-initiated lucid dreams occurring, but even these are much more effective when performed during an awakening later in the night, as we often forget our intentions at the beginning of the night after quickly plummeting into a deep sleep state. Therefore, it's better to focus our attempts towards the later stages of sleep. This makes it more likely to wake during REM sleep, but also serves the additional benefit of avoiding the deeper slow wave sleep, which you don't want to disturb. So I'm calling this sleep interruption, but if it's approached responsibly, it doesn't actually have to be that disruptive. It's important to get a healthy amount of sleep each night, and the less you are getting, the less likely you are to wake up in REM. It's quite easy to experiment with this. If you were lucky enough to have a chance at a lie-in some morning or an afternoon nap, take note of how many dreams you remember. You'll find after 7 or 8 hours, your dream recall will increase exponentially. Another tangible example of how disrupted sleep can impact your dreams can be observed on nights when perhaps you're feeling unwell or you've eaten a bit of a hefty meal too close to bedtime. You've probably experienced restless nights like these, likely as a result of a rise in core body temperature. Now obviously, this isn't a scenario you'd want to recreate, but natural awakenings do occur, and you can train yourself to notice them and take advantage of them. It can be as easy as setting a strong intention before you go to bed to remember each awakening you have. Waking up with a vivid memory of a recent dream is usually an indication you might still be in the REM stage of your sleep cycle. Another clue might be your general state of mind. Waking up from a deep sleep can make you feel slow and groggy, but you'll find that when waking up in REM, there is a very noticeable difference in the way your thoughts are processed. They tend to be more random, colourful, creative, and can be accompanied by hypnopompic imagery or hallucinations. This is a liminal state between sleep and wakefulness that we all experience. Finally, and the mammies might want to turn away for this bit, nocturnal penile tumescence is the medical term for morning wood or sleep-related erections, and is another reliable indicator of REM sleep in healthy males. So there you go, you learn something new every day. We all experience awakenings, micro awakenings or micro arousals several times a night between sleep cycles, but we just don't remember them, similar to how we often forget our dreams. But how does waking up in the middle of the night help with lucid dreaming? Well, there's evidence in a 2020 study to suggest that fragmented and polyphasic sleep increases the frequency of lucid dreams. Now, these surveys and experiments were done with people who already knew how to lucid dream and were probably practicing other techniques simultaneously. So it's important to keep in mind that sleep interruption alone will probably not produce lucid dreams out of thin air. It's merely a tool to supplement your existing practice. What researchers theorize is happening here is that the prefrontal brain activity associated with wakefulness persists into subsequent sleep periods. Certainly, this has been kind of known about for a while. In 1994, an article published in Nightlight describes a study which concludes that longer periods of wakefulness lead to a higher likelihood of lucid dreams occurring. This prompted a blog post by a young enthusiast, Mark Vandekeer, coining the term "wake back to bed," which has been in circulation ever since. So no, WBTB is not a Dr. Stephen LaBerge special, nor did it have any scientific backing at the time, but it is based on a solid enough theory, and we can't ignore the mounting evidence of its effectiveness. The original method suggests waking up after about 6 hours, getting up out of bed and remaining awake for about an hour before going back to sleep while performing your preferred lucid dream induction technique. Now, these metrics have been meddled with over the years, but it's probably better to find the timings that work best for you anyway. The key principle remains the same, that you wake yourself up just enough to get that prefrontal activity going, but not so much that you can't fall back to sleep again. You might only need to stay up for 15 minutes, while others could spend 90. So take into account your normal sleeping habits when you try this method, and figure out the best times and activities to make it work for you. Now, it's also worth noting that Vandekeer says it seemed to be more effective for him when he performed it on consecutive mornings. Now, this kind of makes sense if you consider regular practice of wake back to bed almost like adopting a polyphasic sleep pattern. Unfortunately, there's not enough evidence out there to say if this kind of behaviour is healthy or if it has any benefit at all outside of lucid dreaming. So don't make any lifestyle changes based on this. But if you're looking to boost your chances of having a lucid dream in the short term, wake back to bed is a nice easy one for beginners. Just don't overdo it and make sure you're getting enough sleep. If longer periods of wakefulness are unappealing to you and you're having trouble identifying natural awakenings during the night, there are other methods of sleep interruption which are less invasive. It is possible to form or re-enter a dream immediately upon waking without getting out of bed. This requires more focus though, and it's easy to fall back to sleep during a hurried attempt like this. I feel it gets easier with experience, not to mention it's also down to luck, whether or not you wake from or close to REM. So be prepared for many failed attempts at the beginning. The benefit of doing it like this though is that if you don't manage to have a lucid dream, at least you haven't disrupted your sleep too much. But at the end of the day, the evidence shows that longer awakenings will ultimately give you a better chance. Keep watching the channel to learn some of the techniques that you can apply during these awakenings. To be honest though, I don't know of any induction technique that can't be combined with sleep disruption of some kind, but certainly there are some that benefit from a longer wake back to bed period, while others are more suited to natural awakenings or automatically dismissing alarms, which will wake you just the right amount without you having to move too much. With practice, you can learn to balance on the brink of sleep and ride that wave of consciousness into your next lucid dream. If that sounds like a bit of crack, stick around and we'll get there eventually. But look, sure, I'll let you go for now. Keep practicing everything you've learned so far, Remember, it can take weeks or months for beginners to start having lucid dreams. If you're feeling a bit like an idiot about anything, drop a comment below and I'll try and help you out. If you're enjoying the content or finding it helpful, please like, subscribe and click the bell. You know, maybe if we get enough subscribers to unlock community posts, I can stop going on about the bleeding Twitters all the time. Do check them out though. They really are the best way to keep up to date with the channel and to get some insights into my own personal dream log. Okay, thank you now. Good night. Bye. Sweet dreams.